Good morning, I'm Bob. I'll be speaking to you guys about anti-vaccination movements. If you're like me, you probably heard of them, but not a lot. I kind of wrote them off when I first heard about them because they make weird claims like vaccinations cause autism, but they have no scientific evidence to back this up. Problem is that a lot of people do is listen to the weird claims and follow their advice, and it's creating a problem. They're putting lives in danger. So I would argue that anti-vaccination movements are endangering the lives of the public, of their children, of people who can't get vaccinated for various reasons, and that they're causing a resurgence in various diseases that we thought were either eliminated or firmly under control. Start with kids. I think it's fairly common knowledge that kids get sick a lot. They're young. They haven't built up a lot of the immunity that most of us have, and they're not the most hygienic of individuals. You put them in daycare, running around with a lot of other unclean kids with not a lot of immunity. They get sick. Luckily, by the time they are in daycare or in kindergarten, they've gotten a lot of the vaccinations that protect them from serious diseases: measles, rubella, whooping cough. But if, let's say this child is, his parents are anti-vaxxers, which is what they refer to people who are proponents of anti-vaccination. These kids are not protected against these very serious diseases. That they are exposed to, that they're very susceptible to. These diseases are terrible, and it's like the whooping cough. I mean, one of the serious side effects is evidently you can cough so hard you can fracture a rib. And why would you not want to protect your kids against that, right? So I doubt they're doing it on purpose, but these anti-vaxxers are putting their children in danger because of the misinformation they've been given and that they're spreading. Moving on to the other people that the anti-vaxxers are putting in danger, people who can't be vaccinated. There are several reasons why people can't be vaccinated. According to CDC, because of age, health conditions, or other factors, some people should not get certain vaccines or should wait before getting them. They have an entire list of people who shouldn't get vaccines for various reasons. Typically, it's an allergic reaction to some component in the vaccine. The American Cancer Society says that people with weak immune systems can get some vaccines, but they should not get vaccines that contain live viruses. This is applicable because a lot of the treatments for cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, weaken immune systems. So you give them live viruses, and it kind of has the opposite effect. You try to immunize them against measles, and it gives them measles. And because their immune system's already weak, they get even sick. They have no chance of fighting it off. So, this applies because these people would normally be safe because of this medical phenomenon known as herd immunity. Let's do a quick example. Herd immunity works like this. Stephen, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Stephen wasn't vaccinated against the measles, right? So he's vulnerable to it, but everyone around him was. He's safe because no one around him can get sick, no one can get him sick. But anti-vaxxers compromise this herd immunity by not vaccinating their kids. So, right, you can get vaccinated, but let's say your parents, Monica's parents didn't vaccinate her. Michael's parents didn't vaccinate him, and Alfonso's parents didn't vaccinate him. All of a sudden, there's these three people who can get Stephen sick. These people who probably should have been able to receive vaccination, but didn't because of their parents' views. Now it's affecting Stephen. who was unfortunate enough to be born with an allergy or cancer or whatever. Moving on, the third point is the resurgence of diseases thought to be eliminated or firmly under control. In 2010, there was a whooping cough outbreak here in California. From an article, September 2013 article on NPR. In 2010, a whooping cough outbreak in California sickened 9,120 people, more than any year since 1947. The vaccine for whooping cough was introduced in the 40s. So since it was introduced, no one's gotten this sick. 10 people died. 10 babies that were too young to be vaccinated against it, because anti-vaxxers didn't vaccinate their kids. These kids got sick. They spread it to other people who couldn't be vaccinated, and this is it. I think kind of makes my argument, you know. These anti-vaccination movements are endangering people, not just their kids, but people who can't be vaccinated, like babies who are too young to receive vaccinations. And they're causing resurgences in these diseases that generations haven't had to deal with. 1947, that's well over half a century since anyone's really had to deal with the whooping cough. Thank you for listening.
He gets 5 minutes looking at it once. I want you for it. Yeah. What did you do in 5 minutes?
All right, Bob, I like that you stated the subject early on and your proposition is very clearly laid out. There is a preview of what the material is. It's not really, you don't have numerical signposts in the preview. In the body of the speech, you do use numerical signposts. There's a little bit of a problem, though, with both of those in that they tend to be phrased as passive sentences as opposed to declarative sentences, and sometimes they're just topics, and you want the declarative sentences so that we know that you're making an inference on this particular point. And although I think people listening closely will know that you're making inferences on some of those points, that you need to be a little bit more affirmative about doing that, making sure that people understand that this is the inference that you're going to be supporting there. I thought that you had lots of good examples to illustrate the points that are hypothetical in nature. You could use a little bit more practical examples to illustrate the points. The illustration of the whooping cough, for instance, I think works pretty well when you finally do have some statistical data on it and some factual data on it. I think it's pretty effective at making the point. I think you need some information like that on other issues too, though, and so that you can show us that it is really across a broad spectrum of diseases that we're running into these problems on. One thing that seems to be missing here is the notion that this is, a substantial problem. Now, I could see from your idea here how Stephen could be put at risk because the anti-vaccine people didn't do that, but you pick out 3 people, for instance, in the class who wouldn't get the vaccine because they are, they're affected by those folks. Is the number ever going to be that high? Is it likely that it's that high? See, that's the issue that I think you need an argument on. So the truth of the matter is that Stephen, he might be one of those people who can't get a vaccine, but he's probably pretty safe because 98% of the rest of us get the vaccines. The question is this movement large enough to produce the effect that you're talking about? And that's where I think you need to have a little bit more data to show, for instance, that this is we can track down the whooping cough issue is specifically because of these kinds of things that are happening to people in daycares and in elementary schools because of the anti-vaccine movement. That's what's causing this particular problem. That, I think, would make that a little bit stronger. So I understand the concept. You explained it really well. I thought you did a good job speaking to the audience and visualizing the idea and concept. What we need now is a little bit stronger proof that that is in fact happening. All right. And like I said, I think most of the presentation was pretty effectively developed. You could use a couple more quotes, a couple more statistics here and there to make the argument, but I thought you did a good job kind of finding where the argument is on this after we talked about it. And I think this is a lot better than what you started off with. All right. Thank you.